We're in a race against the Nazis. And I know what it means if the Nazis have a bomb.
Christopher Nolan's historical biopic, Oppenheimer, arrives in theaters and it's absolutely living up to its serious movie hype. This is a story about the man who developed the atomic bomb that was used to end World War II, and by that measure alone, it's a fascinating process movie about science and engineering. It's also a story that might not be in common knowledge anymore. The cast is superb. Cillian Murphy finally gets a breakout starring role as the title character, but Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., and the rest are all great. I love the period-perfect production design and the meaty screenplay, which deals with the ramifications of introducing an atomic bomb into the world. Nolan has made a film that should be a top Oscar contender. My only critique is that its 3-hour running time is a little excessive, but other than my complaining bladder, this is a very good movie.
Hey Barbie, can I come to your house tonight?
Sure. I don't have anything big planned, just a giant blowout party with all the Barbies and planned choreography and a bespoke song. You should stop by.
So cool.
Greta Gerwig's Barbie is also a lot of fun, with Margot Robbie playing a stereotypical Barbie doll who undergoes an existential crisis. So she leaves Barbie Land to come into the real world, and Ryan Gosling as Ken tags along and discovers that he can be more than just an accessory to Barbie. This is a very fun movie. It's much more than just a commercial for Barbie dolls, though. It's about the patriarchy and female empowerment and the purpose of one's very existence. The cast is having a lot of fun, and the costumes and set designs are amazing. Oppenheimer may be the better art film, but Barbie is far and away the better film for both art and fun.
I was the undersized, scrawny kid that was just trying to figure out how to make it.
On home streaming, Steph Curry Underrated is the documentary about the NBA star's rise from Little Davidson College to being an NBA superstar. It's got that sports film, let's cheer for the underdog mentality that makes it very enjoyable. But for my money, it's Curry's relationship with his family that makes this one so sweet. It's not just for fans of the NBA.
I don't know what that was, but that wasn't me.
Somebody is conducting experiments on us.
And finally, over on Netflix, a weird little action/comedy/science fiction film called They Cloned Tyrone. It follows 3 characters straight out of a 1970s blaxploitation movie as they stumble upon a mystery about what's really going on in their neighborhood. Jamie Foxx, John Boyega, and Teyonah Parris are very funny in the film's leading players. It's a little confusing at the end, but the ride is a lot of fun.
Excuse me, kind sir, but if you could point me to the elevator that leads down to the freaky laboratory.
And that's what's new this weekend at the movies. I'm Sean McBride, the movie guy.
Well, good morning to you, Southeast Texas. It's our favorite Friday tradition that has been going on for how long? You even know?
Yeah, well, Dan and I were talking. It's been more than 25. I think it's been just about 25 years. So
wow.
What I'm saying is I'm old.
No, no, you're not. No, you're not. Sean McBride, the movie guy, in case you don't tend to tune in on Fridays. But he is here to kind of give us a rundown of what we can expect this weekend. Listen, I don't know if I've been this excited for a movie to come out in a very long time.
And of course, you're talking about Steph Curry Underrated. Is that the one you
No,
want
I'm
to see?
talking about Oppenheimer. No, I'm talking about the Barbie movie. Come on, that one's...
I'll tell you this, it's funny. I can't tell you how many people I've run into that said, oh no, I want to see both of these movies, Oppenheimer and Barbie, and they're planning on seeing them on the same day. You know, Oppenheimer's 3 hours, Barbie's 2, you know, that's a long day at the movies, but they're excited and they're going to the theaters to see this. A lot of times you have these movies coming out and we're going, I can't wait till this is on home streaming.
Right.
Not this one. They're going to the movies. And I'm thrilled to hear that.
Can't wait to see it. Yeah, that's quite the commitment the folks who are doing too, because like you said, Oppenheimer over 3 hours long, so lots of movie time, but there are people that are committed to doing it because both of them are drawing a lot of attention.
Right, exactly. Now, Barbie is the one that's getting the most attention.
Sure.
Barbie, you know, if you'd asked people, prognosticators about 6 weeks ago, they thought it would open 40, 50 million. Right now, it's like 120, and even some people are saying $150 million for this. That's a huge thing. This is Greta Gerwig's movie. She's the director who did Lady Bird, if you remember. And when she had that huge hit, basically she could have picked any script she wanted to do. She decided to make the Barbie movie. And you know, this is interesting, and so I want to say right up top, if you think this is just a toy commercial, if this is just a light and frothy look at the Barbie toy, you're missing the point of this. Because I do think a lot of mothers are going to take their 8-year-old daughters to see this movie. and the daughters are not going to kind of get it. It's a movie about a Barbie. She's living in Barbie land. She's one of many. Margot Robbie is playing stereotypical Barbie. There's all sorts of Barbies because every child had different Barbies, right?
Plenty of them.
And she's one day starts thinking, hey, you guys ever think about death? You know, which is not a Barbie thought.
No.
And freaks out all of the Barbies. Her feet bend there as well. You can say that. So look, she has an existential crisis.
Sure.
And so she decides to go to the real world to find out what's going on. And Ken, himbo Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, tags along. And when they get to the real world, suddenly we're talking about issues of the patriarchy, and Barbie is confronted with little girls who are saying, you put feminism back, a long way here. And Ken, who has always been just an accessory, suddenly realizes in the real world, men are kind of in charge.
Yeah.
And so the ramifications of that. So this is a movie that is not just about selling toys. And quite frankly, like Will Ferrell plays the head of Mattel Toys, and he wants Barbie back in her Barbie land, so he's not causing troubles for the company. I like how it pokes fun at Mattel. I like how it's something much bigger than just a frothy little toy commercial. It's about feminism. It's about masculinity. It has got, an existential crisis for Barbie.
Yeah.
This is a much more grown-up script that you might have expected. I think it's done very well. I like Margot Robbie, but I love Gosling. He's hilarious. Kind of steals the show in many ways here. He's just this guy that can't understand why, he's an accessory to Barbie.
Of
and,
course.
he wants to be the main, the leading guy here. I like a lot of this. The production design on this is amazing. I mean,
Looks like
the costumes and stuff like that, it looks like you were living in Barbie's dream house. Really, really good movie. And I think a lot of people will see it and love it, but it's aimed at women your age.
Yep.
Not at girls that are 8 years old.
That's the same thing I'm kind of saying, especially with Greta Gerwig kind of being the director. It wasn't going to be a little fluff piece of, here's Barbie in her land. So it should be very exciting. I think you're right. Target audience is 20s, 30-ish. So other movie, big movie of the weekend, Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan, God bless this man. He is trying to single-handedly maintain the movie-going experience. If you remember, he's the guy that released Tenet in the middle of the pandemic, and he, when everybody else was sending their stuff straight to streaming, Nolan said, no, my movies play in theaters. And, matter of fact, Nolan was always known as working with Warner Brothers, and he left Warner Brothers because he was so angry about their decision to put movies on streaming. So, Oppenheimer, a gorgeous film. Like you mentioned, though, I mentioned too, it's 3 hours. So it is a bladder buster of a film. But look, the story about Oppenheimer and America's desire to build the nuclear bomb in the waning days of World War II. Matt Damon plays the commander who's in charge of the Manhattan Project, and then it's Cillian Murphy playing Oppenheimer. He's very good. He's been in a lot of movies. People know his face. Peaky Blinders and stuff like that, but people really don't know him as a leading man. This is one of his first, and I think he's very good. I think the whole cast is really good. And kind of like Barbie, the production design is spot on here. This is, a movie where you are transported to a different land. This time it's back in time to, last days of World War II. I think it's a meaty screenplay that is not just about, it's the war. It's a process film. Scientists putting together the bomb. And then it also deals with those issues. Oppenheimer famously was concerned that he builds this giant weapon that ends the war, but at the same time ushers the world into a nuclear age. And so he's troubled by that. So, but I think this is a really good movie. Obviously, when we get around to Oscar time, this is the movie that people are going to be talking about, one of them. My only critique of it is that it's 3 hours. I do think you can, I do think you could have shortened it a little bit here. You have these filmmakers who are so powerful that there's nobody going to stand up to them and say, not every frame that comes out of your camera is pure gold, and sometimes, Jim Cameron, Martin Scorsese's gonna do a movie that's almost 4 hours here later this year.
Oh my gosh.
So sometimes they need someone to help them make it a little more accessible to mass audiences. But that being said, this is a really good movie. People ask who's winning the weekend. If your definition of winning is art, it's Oppenheimer. If your definition is entertainment but also art, it's Barbie.
Okay. Well, this weekend might be the movie theater is going to see the most people that they've seen in quite a long time.
Barbie should in particular. Yeah,
I would have to imagine. So obviously those are the big ones, but there are still some other ones coming out this weekend.
And some very good. It's a good week in the movies. There's two notable ones on home streaming. Over on Netflix, we have a film called They Cloned Tyrone, which I think is really a lot of fun. It's Jamie Foxx, it's John Boyega. It feels like it's set in the 1970s. It feels like a blaxploitation movie, except that there are talks about contemporary things. What's going on there? You have a hustler. You have a drug dealer and a prostitute and a pimp, and they're all these characters from the 70s movies. And what's going on there? I can't really. I don't want to spoil it, but if you look at the title, it kind of spoils itself to some extent. There is a death, and suddenly we realize there's a mystery going on here. What is that mystery? This black neighborhood, and they find out, well, there's sure a lot of white scientists working here. So what's going on in this underground lab and such? I think it's funny. I think it's mostly notable for the trio of main actors. They have such a nice rapport. It's a comedy, science fiction, thriller. It's a little bit of everything. It does get a little messy. I mean, science fiction, sometimes they don't hit the ending quite perfectly.
Sure.
But I like the performances. I think it's a very good movie over on Netflix.
Okay, well, that's a good option to escape the heat at home, right?
Yep.
And this one, I think, is kind of probably going to draw in a specific crowd, big basketball fans.
Yeah, Steph Curry. That's funny. They call him Stephen Curry at one point in the movie, and they're quickly, But Steph Curry, underrated. It's a movie. It starts out with Reggie Miller reading his scouting report. This kid is too small. He'll never lead a team. And then he goes on. He's the.
Oh my gosh.
And then it immediately goes to the point where he breaks the three-point scoring record. Four-time NBA champ Steph Curry. It's a film that juxtaposes him when he was in college. He couldn't get into a major school, so he went to little tiny Davidson and led them through the NCAA tourney. And then it follows him after having won NBA championships. I like this film because, sports movies, it's easy to cheer for your team. That's always great.
Yeah.
But I really like this movie for the family relationships.
Oh, yeah.
There are shots of his mom and dad, but mom in particular, in the stands cheering him on, both at the NBA and the college level. And they're just that's how it should be. Mom giving everything for her son. And then those shots of him with his own family. If you remember the NBA finals and the press interviews where his daughters took over. I just think this is a sweet movie that's about family and about a good guy succeeding, and it's got that NBA story about the underdog achieving. But I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I don't think it's just for NBA fans. If you're a fan of good human stories, I think it's a great little documentary over on Apple TV+.
Apple TV Plus could be a good one because, like you said, they are so involved in their family, see it all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, that's a look at what's headed to the theaters this weekend. As always, thank you very much, Sean. So to come this morning, full look at your forecast.